Welcome to Commsverse. This session is called Customer Service with Microsoft Teams, and today we'll be presented to you by James Cadman.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining me today. My name's James, and I head up the professional services team for Luware in the UK. Today, I'm going to talk to you about using Microsoft Teams for customer services, and specifically about some of the roadblocks and experiences of one of our customers. We've kept it fairly short. The intention is that we trigger a bit of conversation, so I'll look forward to seeing the Q&A and answering some of your questions towards the end. And there'll be some information about how you can join me for a breakout session afterwards. According to McKinsey, investment in the end-to-end customer journey is really quite important, with their research showing that those businesses who do this outperform their competitors significantly. Crucially, we see that there's a significant increase in customer satisfaction when customer services are an integrated part of the business. I personally believe that a big part of this is for the improvements that the agents themselves experience by stripping away complexity and allowing them to focus on delivering great service. So today I'm going to talk to you about one of our customers, Cinemedia. Cinemedia are a global solutions provider for pay TV operators. They offer the tools and technology to provide targeted content to their subscribers. They have around 1,500 employees, and they're distributed amongst 16 offices in 9 different countries. Synamedia was facing many of the same challenges of any business today. They had a siloed contact center that actually had 6 separate teams. Each of those was actually using a different technical platform as well. There was no single team nor platform pulling together all of those customer touch points. This made it quite difficult for the team leaders. As they were all on different technologies, they couldn't share best practices and learn from one another. If there was a peak in demand in one team, none of the others could easily provide additional agents to help. Add into the mix that in some cases the team leaders couldn't make any changes to the solution at all. This all meant that it was very difficult for the teams to keep up the high levels of service that they wanted to deliver their customers, and that their customers of course deserved. So how do you start with such a challenge? The most important first step is to open a dialogue and deal with the mind change that's going to be needed to unify that customer experience. No doubt, from an outsider's point of view, the situation needed to change. But in many cases, it takes time to shift the mindset of the stakeholders. New is unknown, and humans don't tend to like change. A great first step is to build out your communication strategy. Make sure everybody is included. Change can be scary, so setting out how any changes will work helps to demystify and remove the unknowns. Ideally, you start this with the customer and how it will affect them and work your way up from there. Every single touch point should be considered. When working on your implementation plans, it's always a good idea to go to the shop floor and ask openly about how things can be improved. We find that it not only helps for the team to feel ownership and engagement with the change more readily, but they often think of things in ways you could never imagine without experiencing it day to day. Their feedback really is vital, and it's surprising how often this step is completely missed. So, in the classic view of customer service, it was always something that was separate to the rest of the business. Typically, they are entirely separate departments who use different tools, systems, and in many cases are located in a different office altogether. At Cinemedia, we found this was the case, but actually with 6 different countries and different teams completely. Varying cultures, systems, and processes meant an inconsistent experience was possible for customers. In our vision of modern customer services, Those who provide assistance to customers are an integrated part of the business, who are ideally using the same technology stack as everybody else. At Cinemedia, this means improved team collaboration as technology is no longer getting in the way, and a really simple way to flex additional people in to answer questions from customers from any part of the business, allowing that flexibility to meet the customer demand and peaks as they come up. I believe that Microsoft Teams is the ideal choice for this kind of step change. By its nature, it's a collaboration tool, so working together across team and geographic borders is simple and obvious. The adoption of Teams across the industry speaks for itself. It really is best in class, modern, enterprise grade, and you can even start turning off some of the servers that you would have needed traditionally in the past for this sort of system. With its integration to the rest of Microsoft 365 and well-documented APIs and extensions, it really does make an obvious choice for bringing together everybody in the modern workplace, and I do mean everybody in this case. So Cinemedia went through this process of investigating the marketplace and all of their available options. They engaged with the stakeholders, their team members, and focused on the customer experience, and found that Teams was the most logical choice. However, there was still one element left to truly unify the customer experience. A routing engine that would allow them to take those 6 different teams in different countries and time zones and let them work as one. Teams does of course provide some functionality for call queuing, but it wouldn't quite fit what Cinemedia needed. They needed the ability to route calls to the agents wherever they were and wherever they were available, and to automatically overflow to other team members if needed. And they needed to have detailed reporting on the operations too. So Cinemedia chose Luware's advanced routing solution to integrate with their Microsoft Teams environment. Luware's advanced routing is a cloud-based solution which is integrated directly into Microsoft Teams. Other options were investigated, but Cinemedia found that none of them quite fit right, either because the integration was only a telephony layer, for example, just with SIP calling, meaning that they didn't really know if the agent was actually available or not. In other options, they found that there was limited reporting and overflow capabilities to boot. So this solution that Cinemedia chose allowed them to simplify the agent experience. All the people at Cinemedia need is the Teams client, and with that they can serve their customers, meaning they are able to instantly work from anywhere in any time zone. Being truly integrated with Teams means that Luware's advanced routing can use the presence information to make sure that agents are not disturbed with secondary calls if they're already busy. Simple management and routing logic means that calls are no longer left waiting or simply lost. The team leaders can freely set up voicemail or forwarding targets, or even customize announcements and cue music to make sure the customer's expectations and experience is met and consistent. Detailed reporting insights enabled Cinemedia to implement a follow the sun model for their customer service ops. This allowed them to consolidate 6 independent teams into one single group with far less working out of hours in region, and a completely hands-off, zero configuration routing engine that just finds an available agent regardless of which team or geography or time zone that they happen to be in. That said, it's never all sunshine and rainbows. It's human nature to resist change, and even when the change is clearly for the better, this is something that Cinemedia had to deal with just as much as any of us do. In their case, they managed the change by engaging with their people to ensure they both understood why the change was happening, how it would benefit them and their customers, and actively involving them in the design and decision-making process. Live training was delivered by experts in the solution, with plenty of time for questions and reruns. Making sure that it wasn't a big unknown for their people was really a key to getting the team's buy-in. Cinemedia are now in a great position and have already felt the benefits of this new way of working. When the coronavirus crisis hit across each of their respective offices, they simply carried on as normal. People took their laptops home, they signed into Microsoft Teams, and they just carried on as they normally would from the office. They've also seen a drastic improvement in their productivity and have been able to put plans to increase the size of some teams on hold, because they've unlocked the power of all of these people, and where they would previously have underutilized engineers or agents, they can now use them automatically wherever they are. Joe from Synamedia remarks that the workload distribution happens in real time and they don't really need to intervene when the demands on them change. It's all taken care of by Luware's advanced routing. So in summary, what was the key to this success? Well, firstly, you need to unlock the potential of the whole organization by making every customer touch point available. Next up, carefully choose the right communication tools. The ones that not only suit your technical environment, but the one that suits the people and the processes and the way you work as well. Go to where your customers are. Whatever device, platform or modality, customers these days expect to communicate with you in their choice of method, not the one that you've chosen. And finally, engage with your people early on and involve them in the process. They really do have a vast amount of experience, particularly on the front line. You only need to ask them and they'll provide it to you. So as I said, I tried to keep this nice and short and provoke some Q&A. So at this point, I'll take a stop and see if there's any questions that have come up during the talk before we talk about the breakout sessions and the next steps.
Thank you, James. We haven't had any questions just yet, but while people are perhaps typing, if they do have anything they'd like to ask you, I thought I would ask whether you, as your organisation, had any tips and tricks that you found as people moved their contact centres to people's homes around, keeping the quality and keeping the experience for customers high.
Yeah, I think something that we're all grappling with at the moment is what is the quality like of people's internet connection at home, and how congested are those connections, particularly when in a lot of cases the children are not at school, so they may be online more than usual. What we're seeing actually is that in the Microsoft Teams space, it's actually pretty flexible in terms of how it can handle poor network environments. So whilst we have seen a couple of hotspots where individuals have had some challenges where their internet connection isn't as good as some of their colleagues, generally speaking, it's been fine. A couple of tips that we have come up with is some of our customers have shipped particularly long Ethernet cables to their sort of agents. And that means that even if they're sitting at their dining table or in the living room or wherever it may be to do their work, they could actually be cabled in to the router. This is always going to be a better solution than using Wi-Fi. And of course, the IT departments at a couple of our customers have spent a lot of time with their people to do things like do a check on the Wi-Fi channels and things like that. So I'd really recommend having a look at what is the Wi-Fi congestion looking like, and is there any possibility to drop a really cost-effective solution in, like, for example, a really long Ethernet cable. Cool,
thank you. So we haven't had any other further questions here. Oh, actually, there's one just arrived. Hang on, let me go. Great.
Wonderful.
So I've had a question from Russell. He asks, can I monitor what my agents are doing, for example, and also follow-up question, what about recording?
So yeah, wonderful, great question. So we do offer solutions where you can supervise any of the calls going through the solution. So that can be a traditional If you remember the good old days where we used to have Y cords in the contact center, you have to come along and plug in. Obviously, in the days of home working and remote situations, that's almost impossible to do. So what we have is actually we have virtual supervision in our contact center solutions. So remotely from the browser, a supervisor is able to go in and pick any individual call and either listen, whisper or barge into the call, which gives them the ability to do remote coaching and checking on live calls as they happen. We do also offer a comprehensive range of recording solutions as well. And I believe that we're one of the very few to offer a cloud-hosted native Microsoft Teams recording solution that can capture all of the modalities, store it into your own Azure storage. So it's all yours and safe and kept nice and tidy. And it's based on the real industry standard and best in class variant product suite hosted by Luware.
Great. We've had another question here. Does your solution just provide incoming customer calls?
So we've actually got a really powerful array of integration options that we can use to handle all sorts of tasks. So we traditionally look at contacts or customer service centers as being either voice only or inbound only. But what we've actually built is the ability to use our routing engine, which takes into account not only skills, but also responsibilities and presence. And you can use that to find someone with the right skills and availability to do any type of task. And what I mean by this is that could be an outbound PSTN task, for example. So a couple of our customers use this by having a CRM system. So if a customer's account goes into arrears, for example, then it can automatically trigger what we call an outbound callback. So we find an agent that's got the right skill set. We send the outbound callback to them. It calls the customer and you get all the same reporting. So you get to see how long the agent took on the phone. You get to see their wrap-up codes, their after-call work timers, etc. And that can be triggered from an external API. So a CRM system can trigger that. But further to this, we can use what we call external tasks. And that means that our API can be used to trigger a task to go to an individual. And again, it doesn't matter who that individual is, as long as they have the right skills and availability to do any type of work. We use this in many cases for things like social media or email routing, but actually it can be used for all sorts of things like checking up on, is the health and safety poster up right, or things around the office, for example. Literally any type of task can be triggered, and we can do automatic screen pops with that as well. So if it is, for example, to progress a CRM case or reply to an email that's come in via CRM, then that can automatically go into the queue, wait for an available agent, route the task to them, crucially make sure that they don't receive any other calls whilst they're dealing with this task, and automatically pop open the page that they need to be actioning in the CRM system at the time. So it really takes away that sort of cognitive load, if you like. The agent hasn't got to figure out where to go. They just get to see it. A great question. Thanks for that one.
Cool. And there was a follow-up about, I guess, other types of modalities, as in web chat. Mm-hmm. Other routes for conversations to come in other than just voice.
Yeah. So obviously in this modern day era, I think particularly in business, right, everyone seems to ping you as an IM before actually making a call these days, which I find a fascinating trend. Yeah. So we've got inbound chat capabilities, and we also have the option to put that as a web chat out on a website and things like that as well, with everything you kind of expect, like co-browsing, etc. And through some sort of basic conversational IVRs in that web chat, we can gain some information about the caller and then use all the same features that you would get for a voice call. So you could get screen pops and CRM type information. And we also offer the ability to seamlessly escalate that up to a voice call if needed as well. So that's a really cool solution.
Cool, thank you very much. So that's all the questions we've had here. If anyone else would like to have a further conversation with James, James will now be moving over to the post-session breakout. I've posted a link to that in the Q&A. You can see the link on the screen there, but also if you can click Q&A, you'll be able to click it. And that's a standard Teams meeting, so you can have a straightforward conversation. So thank you very much for joining. Thanks for watching, and enjoy the rest of your day at Commsverse.
Wonderful. Thank you, guys.